Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we're going to talk about if Battleship could operate in the Black Sea. The Black Sea has been in the news a lot recently due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Today is March 4th, 2022 that we're filming this, so the invasion is 8 or 9 days in at this point. And over the last week or so, I've gotten a ton of questions about could the battleship operate in the Black Sea? And some of these questions are in a historical context. Hey, can battleships even operate there? And some of them are, hey, Ryan, are you going to fire up the battleship and take it over to the Black Sea and support one side or the other? Some of these questions are easier to answer than others. So, Ukraine pretty famously has a small navy, especially after Russia seized the major fleet base on the Crimea Peninsula. So the Ukrainian navy cannot really contest Russian operations in the Black Sea. Russia strategically has some issues due to the size of the country. Much like how the United States has to either maintain two fleets, one in the Atlantic and one in the Pacific, or one large fleet that needs a canal to transition from one side to the other. And it's been a debate throughout American history which we were going to do, one large fleet or multi-fleet situation. And by World War II, it was decided that we'll just have a two-ocean navy. However, Russia has some more significant issues. They have 4 major ocean regions that they need to project power into: the Pacific, the North Atlantic, the Baltic, and the Black Sea. And for the North Atlantic, their ports often ice over. For the Baltic, there are a number of other countries between them and exiting the Baltic Sea. And for the Black Sea, they would have to exit through the Dardanelles, which is controlled by Turkey. And pretty commonly in wartime, Turkey, and even going back to the Ottoman Empire, would close those straits to combatant vessels. So Russia has to build basically 4 times as many ships as anyone else because their ships can't really reinforce each other. During the Russo-Japanese War, during the Russo-Japanese War, the Russians famously have to send their Baltic fleet halfway around the world to reinforce their Pacific fleet, and the Japanese are able to destroy both fleets in detail one at a time, even though nominally the Russian fleet was significantly larger than the Japanese fleet in total forces available. So, that's the strategic situation. Russia is basically just fighting the war with the current ships they have in the Black Sea. As is customary, Turkey has closed the Dardanelles to warships. So this means that Russia cannot reinforce its Black Sea fleet with other ships from the Baltic or the North Atlantic or whatnot. It also means that a ship like the Battleship New Jersey could not go there. And you don't just force the Dardanelles. The Allies learned this during World War I. But Turkey has shore batteries and other defenses and mines and their own navy and air forces to protect that strait. And while you're in those restricted waters, you can't maneuver to avoid anything. So if Turkey says the straits are closed, that's the end of the story. So that answers the question, could Battleship New Jersey go over there today? Also, the engines don't work anymore. Like, we're a museum ship. To the guy who sent me an email asking if we could transport the aid packages they were delivering, or they were putting together to Ukraine, no, we can't sail across the ocean, and we definitely can't get to into the Black Sea. So let's say that this is a big enough international incident that the Navy wants to get involved and they want to send the battleship. First off, have battleships ever operated in the Black Sea? Yeah, it's happened a couple of times. During the pre-Dreadnought era, it was pretty common for Russian pre-dreadnought type battleships to be operating in the Black Sea. That's not a surprise, but those ships are significantly smaller. Have any modern battleships operated there? Dreadnought type battleships have the Russian dreadnought Sevastopol, which was also renamed to the Russian translation of Paris Commune, which I'm not going to try and butcher on film. But basically add a bunch of letters to the end of Paris and Commune, and that's the name of this ship for a period of her career. She operated in the Black Sea throughout all of World War II. Likewise, the Turkish dreadnought battlecruiser Sultan Yavuz operated in the Black Sea pretty heavily during World War I and had the ability to transition from the Black Sea to the Aegean throughout her entire career. The closest a modern super dreadnought type battleship or fast battleship ever got to the Black Sea was in 1946 when the battleship Missouri transported the body of the Turkish diplomat to the United States back to Istanbul for repatriation. And in that voyage, we get this great picture of this World War I German-built battle cruiser operated by the Turkish Navy called Yavuz, next to Missouri in her pretty much close to as-built World War II configuration. So that's always been one of my favorite pictures. We don't have that many of dreadnoughts and fast battleships sitting right next to each other. So this is in Istanbul, so it's just the Dardanelles between Battleship Missouri and the Black Sea. Today we're in the captain's in-port cabin, which is his fancy entertaining space. It would have been a space very similar to this on Missouri, where they entertained Turkish dignitaries when the ship was in Istanbul in 1946. So that is as close as an Iowa or any other modern battleship ever got to that waterway, with the possible exception of the Russian battleship under construction on the Black Sea, the Soviet Soyuz class battleship Sovietsky Ukraina. Again, I'm butchering that, which was being built there before it was captured by the Germans. Mostly incomplete at that point. So, yeah, the full-size battleships can operate on the Black Sea. The Dardanelles is deep enough, which means that even a modern Iowa-class battleship could sail through there. And we have seen American warships operate in the Black Sea recently, including Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. We want to refit the battleship New Jersey for U.S. involvement in this war and take her over to the Black Sea. What needs to happen? Well, as the Navy no longer owns the ship, they have to regain control of it. Our contract with the Navy does allow them to do that in a national emergency. And assuming that we go to war with Russia, the Navy may want to expand the fleet, and maybe for some reason they choose to reactivate an Iowa-class battleship. So they picked New Jersey for whatever reason, and they tow us to Norfolk's probably the closest place that they could do this sort of major work, and start reactivating the ship. What's that going to take? Well, we know from past experience, the ship has been reactivated a number of times and modernized a number of times, that it will take approximately a year, and adjusting for inflation, it'll take approximately $2 billion. Assuming the U.S. government wants to spend that sort of money to reactivate a ship which is now in her 80s, that is doable. And you could do a fairly all-store reactivation and leave her pretty close to her 80s configuration. With those radars and weapon systems aren't too far out of modern context. So, assuming the Navy spends that money and the ship goes through a several month-long shakedown and training period, the war in Ukraine has now been going on for 18 months to 2 years, and almost undoubtedly has expanded to a global war. So we probably wouldn't be sending the ship to the Black Sea at that point. But to stick to the original question, we're trying to send the ship to the Black Sea. Can we do it? Yes, the ship could operate there. Maybe Turkey's in this war at this point and allows us to go through the Dardanelles. Would it be a good idea? Is there any reason to send a ship to the Black Sea? This is very much Russia's backyard. The Black Sea is an extremely restricted waterway. During World War II, you saw comparatively little fighting on a fleet scale in seas like the Baltic and the Black Sea because they're so small. You don't commit your fleets there because they're going to be detected. Even in the Mediterranean, you see fleets and aircraft just running into each other all the time, and it really was a knockdown, drag-out fight with massive casualties. It's not like the Pacific where you can hide in the vast expanses of the ocean. You are going to be detected and you are going to be shooting at each other, which isn't always a great strategy. If your ship can go undetected and fire at enemy ships and knock them out without taking any return fire, that's your best option. You don't want to fight a fair fight. That's why the U.S. has invested very heavily in stealth aircraft and warships in recent years. A battleship is decidedly unstealthy, but every other ship in the fleet is not survivable. In a restricted waterway like that where they're going to be detected, they're going to be fired at and they're going to take hits. A battleship would be as good an idea as any in the Black Sea because she could take more hits than any other ship in the fleet right now and survive. Probably not able to conduct her mission that effectively, but she would survive, and a larger portion of the crew than on other ships would survive as well. So if for some ungodly reason you have to force the Black Sea, I would rather do it in a battleship. Why would you need to? Your battleship's going to be damaged and to the point that you probably don't want to repair it. Far better to use air power and cruise missiles and other things which you can project just as easily from the Mediterranean or other parts of the world. Aircraft based in our allied countries could just as easily conduct the resupply missions or the bombardment missions that a battleship could. This is going to cost money, it's going to put pilots at risk, but you're not putting one of your most singularly expensive and manpower intensive national assets at risk. And this is why ultimately we see a total of 2 modern battleships operating in the Black Sea. It's too restrictive. Germany didn't send warships to the Black Sea. They sent their army and air forces in. And they were very effective at sinking Russian destroyers and cruisers in the Black Sea during World War II with that age's armaments and detection equipment. So imagine how much more effective those sorts of air forces and missile forces would be against a warship in the Black Sea today. So, final answer to the question, could the battleship go to the Black Sea today? In theory, yes, she can operate in the Black Sea, but no, she cannot sail today. And I can't think of any situation in which the United States would decide to reactivate this ship and send her to the Black Sea. I do not foresee any American warships operating in the Black Sea during this war. So, do you think the U.S. should be projecting power in the Black Sea right now to support one side or the other? Let us know in the comment section down below. Do you think a battleship would still make a good power projection tool in the 21st century? Let us know what you think. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate the support you've given us. If you'd like to continue donating, there's a link in the description below. You can also support the museum by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about our channel and the museum. Thanks for watching.